You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
As always, James, great to have you here in the studio.
Yeah, good evening, Daniel, and thanks for inviting me back once again.
So I was wondering if we could start off with a little bit of an introduction about what you do at the Kent County Council Community Wardens.
Yeah, certainly, sorry about that. Well, community wardens are people who aim to improve the life of people in Kent so that they can live safely and independently in their neighbours' communities. We're distinctly different from the police officers and the PCSOs, or the police community support officers, as we are actually employed by Kent County Council and have no police powers. We do, however, provide a visible and uniform presence, and we are regarded as the focal point for inquiries in the community on any topic. If I don't have the answer myself, I would advise further points of inquiry. We befriend the elderly and vulnerable members of the community who may otherwise feel alone or friendless. We're accredited by Kent Police, who takes an active role in the initial training of new wardens. They ensure that our training is to a particular standard and does cover particular topics. Each person has got to achieve a particular standard, as each subject of training could be met on a daily basis. The badge on our left arms refers to this accreditation scheme.
So, James, how can our listeners find out who their community warden actually is?
Well, the easiest way is through the website, which is www.kent.gov.uk/community wardens. There's 3 community wardens who cover the Isle of Sheppey. There's myself in Laysdown and Warden, Cheryl Hendry in Minster, and Dave Osborne in Sheerness.
And James, I know you wanted to talk about whether you work alongside the police or do you work independently?
Well, we are independent from the police, although we do work closely with them, because many of the items that we deal with are also matters of criminal law. I mean, for example, we've got things like fly tipping, graffiti, vandalism, and low levels of antisocial behaviour.
So, how do you engage with the community then, James?
Well, I try and engage with the community by meeting with them on any and every occasion that I can. I regularly patrol the streets in my area on foot, and I'm approachable at all times. When I'm not on duty, either on the street or at the office in Laysdown, I won't actually say that's not my job. I'll meet with groups and give presentations, and will always be pleased to discuss any item with any person. If I don't know the answer myself, I will always do my best to find the person who does have an answer. Another way that community wardens can engage with the residents of Sheppey is at the Sheerness Gateway every Monday between 12 and 1 o'clock, where they'll be on hand to answer any queries which you may have.
And James, I know you wanted to cover next dogs in cars.
Yes, indeed. It's important to remember the slogan that's been around for many years: dogs die in hot cars. And this is very true. It can get unbearably hot in a car on a sunny day, and even when it's not that warm. I mean, take the past couple of days, the temperatures have been in the early 20s, occasionally pushing mids at some point. But let's say temperature like it has been certainly yesterday and today, 22 degrees Celsius, that's 72 Fahrenheit. If that's the outside temperature, the temperature inside a car can soar up to 47 degrees Celsius, that's 117 Fahrenheit, within 1 hour. So the temperature almost doubles in an hour. So humans have sweat glands to regulate their body core temperature by transferring the excess body heat to the outer layer of skin when it's then evaporated by sun and wind. Dogs do not have this luxury. They can only regulate their body temperature through their pores and with the air they breathe, and also through drinking water. If a dog is left in a car with the windows sealed, then the rising air temperature inside will cause the animal to severely overheat, and in very extreme temperatures, or even if they're not checked regularly, they will die. In order to avoid this, a few things for you to think about. Firstly is don't leave the dog in your car at all. If you have to leave the dog in the car, leave a window open, or even leave 2 windows open, 2 or 3 inches, so that a draft can get through and cool the inside of the car down. Leave a plentiful supply of water with the dog. Try to get a shaded area where the dog can get some shelter from the sun, even if this is a jacket tied between some of the back seats, just to give some shade inside that car. and remember to return to the vehicle periodically and check on the animal's welfare. And lastly, the most simple way to avoid your dog's suffering in a car, simply don't take the dog out with you. It might sound harsh to leave the dog at home, but if the dog's at home, there's plenty of shade, there's plenty of water left out for them, and there's very little chance that they're going to come to some harm in the vehicle. The RSPCA take a very serious view on dog owners who leave their dogs in hot vehicles and can impose a person guilty of an offence under a number of sections that they look at. And that person, on conviction, they're liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 51 weeks, so it's best part of a year, or even a fine not exceeding £20,000. And in certain cases, animals can be seized from the owner, and a ban on owning animals for a period of time can also be imposed.
James, I know you wanted to next cover keeping your belongings secure and how our listeners can perhaps protect their house while they're away as well.
Yes, certainly. I mean, summer holidays, people obviously jetting away abroad or other parts of the UK or wherever holiday sites take their fancy. And it's important to note that burglars and other crooks take special notice of houses that appear to be empty. Effort should therefore be spent in making an empty house appear to be occupied if you are to deter burglars while you're away from home. Obvious security measures, regardless of the length of time you're away, are to ensure that all doors have 5-lever mortise locks fitted, in addition to a night latch, such as a Yale lock. Windows too should be closed and locked. Devices to lock windows can be bought quite inexpensively and are often sufficient to deter a would-be burglar. Double glazed windows are usually manufactured with these locking devices fitted. Remember to use these devices and keep the keys etc. handy, but remember to keep them out of sight from the window. An obvious precaution is to ensure that milk and paper orders are cancelled during your holiday, as accumulations of uncollected papers and milk are a sure sign of inactivity. Also, mail or parcels might sometimes be left on show in porches or by doors, and this can give burglars further clues. So insist that your postperson always pushes mail right through the letterbox and use the services of your guardian neighbour to remove any parcels left in porches until you return home to collect them. This also applies to the delivery of free newspapers, where all too often they are delivered unsolicited and left on show in porches or even hanging out of letterboxes. Very often a neighbour or a nearby friend will agree to visit your house on a daily basis during your absence, so they can draw the curtains across the windows at night and open them again in the morning. Another tactic might be to allow your neighbour to park a car on your driveway overnight during your absence. Many people have more than one car these days, and this can therefore be considered. I mean, lights, especially standard lamps and table lights, can easily be operated in your absence by time switches, thus making it appear that someone is at home when in fact you're not. The same device can be used to switch radios on and off. This will also give the impression that someone is at home.
And I know the next thing you wanted to cover, James, was security in the garden, which is quite relevant with all this warm weather, I should imagine.
Yes, certainly. I get a load of emails from Kent Neighbourhood Watch across the whole of Swale, and there have been quite a few shed breaks over the past couple of months. And there's calls for information and just general advice for people to remain vigilant. So I thought I'd take this opportunity and mention this tonight. I think it's important to remember that householders would sometimes be very surprised at the value of the items stored in their sheds, let alone in their garages. And it's good advice to tot up the value of the equipment stored there and take steps to prevent burglars stealing from sheds and garages. Good padlocks and security devices are necessary. There's no point in securing high-value items with a low-value lock or a weak Halsman staple. Use the quality of equipment that the value of the contents demands. Some more things you need to bear in mind is to cover up items in the shed from being viewed through the window, i.e. lawnmowers, trimmers, etc. This can be done fairly simply with a dust sheet. Go down to a builder's merchant, buy dust sheets fairly cheaply. You go in there, chuck them over. The sheets themselves are about 18 foot square, so double it up. You can cover most of the stuff in your garden shed. Remember to secure bicycles with a good quality locking chain. Again, goes back to use the quality of equipment that the value of contents demands. And remember to secure lawnmowers to fix objects inside the shed with similar devices. If needs be, lock 2 or 3 things together with the same chain. And consider adding the shed to your household alarm system if you've got one. Keep ladders inside rather than leave them in the garden. And lock the rungs of ladders so that they can't be extended. Again, bike chains can be used for this. Put it through 2 or 3 of the rungs, connect it back on themselves, job done. And remember to remove large items from gardens so that burglars could use to clamber over fences. Wheelie bins are sometimes used for this, so keep them in the back garden rather than the front garden if you can. And this one I'm going to go more towards bit of the garden stuff and bit of stuff for the household. So excuse me. So burglars dislike walking over gravel as it raises a great deal of noise and it could alert householders to their presence. So if you consider using gravel or stones where possible to guard things like side entrances and gateways. Also, security floodlighting can be installed onto the side of houses with infrared motion sensors. This can fill the area with light, thereby showing up any person who walks within the sensor's area. You can also set timers on that for how long the light stays on, how dark it is before the light gets activated, and generally to protect yourselves from that way. Now, going on to the home side of things, don't leave fan lights or windows open when you're not at home. No matter how inaccessible you think the window might be, you'll be amazed at the lengths that some people will go in order to gain entry. Always try to minimise the risk of burglary by these methods and force the burglar to look elsewhere for a victim. At the very least, you may prevent a casual opportunist thief, if not the professional thief as well. There are many steps which you can take to help ensure that your property is fully secure. Here are just 5 tips to help you. So firstly is never leave tools or ladders outside. Fit a shed alarm and security lighting. Disable mowers and chain machinery together. Lock your shed with a good quality sold secure lock. And security mark property and register it on immobilised.com. Further information can be found at www.swalecsp, that's Swale Charlie Sierra Papa .co.uk/protect.
And I know, James, you next wanted to talk about security marking.
Yes, indeed. So in such an eventuality that your items do get stolen, whether this be either from your property or from your shed, can you answer a question to yourself? Is the property marked in such a way that you're able to get it returned to you if it's found? If your answer to that is no, then think to yourself, what can I do to mark my property so that it can be returned if found? There are many ways to mark your property so that it can be done. Such ways are, you can either engrave it, smart water, ultraviolet markers, microdot, or punch stamping. Now, very quickly, I'll run over this again. You got engraving. I'm sure you all know what that is. Pass it over to someone. They write something in it with a special tool. Smart water. Smart water is a unique coded water. It has microscopic metal fragments inside of it, and each one has its own DNA type signature. It's unique to the sample that you're given, and it has a 100% conviction rate in court, and is virtually impossible to get off of items, especially things like clothing, if someone does break into anywhere. Ultraviolet markers. This is simply a pen. You write stuff on it. You can't see what you've written, but if you put an ultraviolet light over it, it then glows bright blue or purple at you. Microdot. Again, it's similar to smart water, but it's a very microscopic piece of information that gets put onto your item. And again, something can be returned to you very easily if it's found. And finally, punch stamping. This is where someone will get a stamp, put it on something. This is normally done on metal items, but that they'll put it against it, strike the back of it with a hammer, and it leaves the imprint on the item that they've struck. All of these things can be easily applied to your property and recorded so that you can hand the document over to a police officer or even PCSO or maybe even a community warden, saying what the item is, how much it's estimated to be worth, where the item has been marked, and what it has been marked with. In that way, several things can be done to recover the marker and secure a conviction for the person who has got the item. I've got a very small amount of ultraviolet marker pens left at the Lansdowne Police Office, which I can hand out to members of the public who wish to mark their property as well as giving out advice on where to mark the property in a way that's not easily identifiable to the naked eye without specialist lights. The best way to mark items such as a mobile phone, laptop, etc. is in the recess left by the battery when removed. Simply put your postcode and house number and replace the battery once the ink has dried. Then take note of it on a record sheet and then ensure that this is in a safe place and that cannot be taken without great difficulty. And therefore, if the item does go missing, report it to your community warden, police officer or even a PCSO and say what the identifying mark is and where it can be found. I'll come back in a couple of minutes once I've written down some contact details and you'll be able to find out some more information and get advice from these persons.
And James, before you go, I was just wondering if you could go over any useful contact details for our listeners.
Yeah, certainly. Numbers I'm going to go through are Kent Police, Crime Stoppers, Swale Borough Council, Community Safety Unit, Kent Highways and Kent Trading Standards. So we've got Kent Police, which is on 101 for non-emergencies. It literally is just those three numbers, 101. Or the emergency number, which everyone knows, is 999. Crime Stoppers, number that you can phone if you want to make an anonymous report to the police, is 0800 555 111. Swale Borough Council, if you want to go through to the call centre, they can take your details for anything regarding fly tipping, graffiti, nuisance parking, that kind of thing. And their call centre number is 01795 417 850. The Community Safety Unit, which is also based at Swale Borough Council, is on 01795 417 193. Kent Highways, all the people that deal with those lovely potholes that start turning up at the end of summer. They're available on 08458 247 800. And finally, Kent Trading Standards, which is 08457 585 497.
James, as always, it's great to see you here at BRFM on the Monday Night Community Show, and as always, I appreciate you coming along.
That's right, Daniel. Thank you very much for inviting me. I've been doing this for well over 5 years now, and yeah, I think it's a great tool to be able to get advice out to the members of Swale.
Well, thanks, James, and we'll see you in a couple of months' time.
Indeed, no worries.
That's James Crane for the Kent County Council Community Ward.